Today I'm going to talk about the state of LSP in Kotlin. This is presented by Prasanna Kumar, and that's me. So the agenda for today is whether to use IDE or not. Okay. So Kotlin has primarily being very close to IntelliJ IDEA. I just used the A in brackets along with the ID. Okay. That's being the reason. So it actually means ID, just ID. So I guess most of us in this group will be using IDs, right? Anyone who don't use IDs, any odd man outs here? Hello? Hello?
No, I think I use IDE, of course.
Okay, fine. So you see, one more thing is this is going to be a very less technical content oriented rather than and it's more going and it's really more towards more towards our ideas and experience, sharing our experience. Okay, because I'm not going to explain too much technical as like is my previous talk. So let's and we also have a very less number of participants, so we can just talk. So now, so coming back to my slide, I would like some slide disturbance here. Now, so what are the advantages we naturally feel when using ID? Because it provides us everything, say like project management. So because you just import a folder which has the with the build artifacts, it converts it as a complete project, and it also identifies the sub-projects within the project. Say, for example, if you have a Maven module or Gradle, which has a sub-project within it, so all those projects get detected, and we get a one nice organization about the entire code structure. Right? In addition to this, it also provides auto-completion in the form of you add any new build artifact or dependencies. It also provides the public API associated with the libraries, and it provides the auto-completion. Without auto-completion, there is nothing. Right? That's one of the major feature that's one of the very fundamental feature that any IDE must provide. And code conversion in the sense like this is very much specific to Kotlin, because you can convert a Java code into Kotlin on the fly. So you paste the code, and IntelliJ converts the code into Kotlin, and it is very much magical. After you start the development, and when you want to run some unit test case, and run the unit test case, or just you can even debug your code by putting breakpoints and everything. But at the same time, given all these advantages, there is a caveat, and the caveat is with IntelliJ especially, IntelliJ or Eclipse for that matter, right? When you open more than one project, right, your resource usage goes up, right? So anyone have any experience on this when you have used more than, or either a complex project, or used more than one project by opening in the same window?
Yeah, I suffer a lot, especially my work project is pretty heavy.
Okay. And what do you do in such cases?
I try to increase the RAM in my IDE. I mean, the RAM usage. Thankfully, I'm using 16 GB Mac, but even that is not scaling up.
Okay.
So I kind of have this issue a lot. I can't open anything else if the ID is open.
Okay. Okay. See, one more thing is, I'm just saying examples. I'm just quoting ID, IntelliJ, and Eclipse as an example, because until now, some of the points which we are discussing might be generic to even Java and Scala, or even Ruby also. So the name of the IDs mentioned here are just for example. Okay. But in
Another
general,
thing I do is, yeah, sorry. Hello.
so because in other words, it might bias, like as if we are trying to blame a particular ID uh, towards its usage. Yeah, Gopal, you were saying something. Sorry that I superseded.
I was also saying that the other also sometimes I try to use lightweight IDs like VS Code when I just have to read code instead of navigating along with IDE. So
Okay.
that's another thing I. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now that we all agree that IDs are definitely brings us more productivity than we expect. Besides the fact that it has a high resource usage, right? So now, are we okay with this? Meaning, we are gaining productivity, and the trade-off we are making is high resource. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, Prasanna.
Sometimes
Yeah,
they're okay with that.
Okay, right. So if you are okay with this, sorry.
sorry.
Yes. Sometimes they're okay with this because, like, had auto completion of the things, the code. So that is what makes more efficient.
Mhm.
And wait, I of high resources, but that is also another advantage of using any ID.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to next. So yeah. So if we have reached a consensus saying that the resource usage is still okay, but I'm very happy with the ideas. If that is the case, then there is no subject left over for this talk. We can just go home. But on the other hand, this talk is titled as LSP, and I haven't not even told what LSP is. Right. So I would like to take a different direction from the concept of IDs, right? At the same time, present you something different in the form of LSP. So this is where actually my talk about LSP starts. I would like to discuss of LSP environment in Kotlin language, and now I'm going to the actual agenda of this talk. So this talk is not uh, uh, first time I would like to explain. It's not about what is LSP and how LSP differs from IDE. And I would like to explain my flow, how I use LSP code, all the caveats or corner cases while using LSP. And I will slightly community pitch. See at the end of what is it's not about. I'm not going to go and make of you explicit, but that's just as I said, it is just for the name of for the sake of. At the same time, I'm not going to propose an alternative ideas. I'm going to just propose something which is slightly different from the and it is not also about finding or debating justifying whether or the concept of LSP or ID with each other. I'm not going to spark any such debate. On the other hand, I'm not going to glorify LSP to such extent that it will be the silver bullet resource usage content and giving better experience. It is not. It is also not about. So, and to work on ID, this is very much obvious. We come from ID world, and also deal about such factors. So, what is okay? Let's get into the crux of LSP is a language by which language runtimes or compilers can interact with the editors. Now, let's say that why which language and compilers mean statically typed language. So LSP as a protocol standard works for both these type of languages. While LSP is just a middleware which runs between the compiler or the interpreter and the editor, so that any editor can be interchanged, which can speak to LSP. So when you start a project, which let's assume it may be in Kotlin, Java, or whichever language it is, you start a project supported by a build tool, LSP daemon, and that editor has daemon, so that the LSP daemon use necessary features as ID. As someone said, to provide autocompletions, to provide code refactoring, to run your unit test cases, and to also even to debug your code. Okay. So now, what happens with this concept is you are decoupling yourself and changing your workflow slightly in a different way when you are inside an ID, which means that you are in some cases you have to manually bring up your project and importing the project into your IDE, because I easier for you. The code is also slightly well. At what cost we are doing this, or by considering these conveniences, what are we achieving? Is we the editor we want, provided the editor has support for LSP. If that is being the very bare minimum requirement. Once you satisfactory with your editor, then you are free to use any language. So now, if you also see some plugins, so language bindings for certain IDEs are provided in the form of plugins, and some of them are open source and some of them are commercial. Say for example, Spring Boot in Boot and TypeScript and all those features are made commercial, whereas they are not commercial in another set of IDEs. If you are a very heavy Spring Boot user, okay, and if you feel that Spring Boot as a plugin is available as open source in one IDE, but that's not in your choice, or that's you may also be in a situation where you cannot even make the choice, right? So in such cases, you may have to just Spring Boot, you may have to switch over to the other IDE, whereas you have to consider a lot of features that you are very much okay. Also, right? So we are definitely make trade-off. things, but, but the developer experience to
Have any questions?
okay.
No, fine.
Okay, so let's go to the yeah. So right, we can just compare and contrast some of the factors between this IDE. In IDEs, things are very much driven. So you don't need yes, special configuration, or in sometimes you just go to the preference tab of the IDE and you just change few things and yeah. In terms of LSP, you need a configuration file which is specified by editor. See, until now, I would like to make. I'm just telling the features, or I'm just making aware of the things with respect to the LSP server, but not particular to the editor. Say like for we have a separate a different kind of configuration files, and for Sublime it is different, and for Vim it is absolutely different, because each of these editors backed by different type of language platforms and the UI kits, right? And also the way they maintain configuration also differs. So we have to find out the appropriate configuration for these editors, and we have to start using it. Okay. And IDEs do provide lot of things for us, and provide a lot of conveniences. So it is very imperative that the resource usage will be definitely high. Whereas in terms of LSP, they are limited, but they are not low as well. Okay. So there will be a marginal difference in the resource usage, which is lower though it is low in LSP. And so support for various features, right? They are provided by the IDE community and community. The who write the appropriate plugins for specific needs are generally paid group. So what happens is, when you require a fix, or when you require a feature, you can just post them in their GitHub or in their official forums. They may consider the next release, and if they find out any important defects, they have their own a well-organized release cycle, and through which we can get the fixes or features being added. Whereas that's not the case with LSP, because it's completely owned by the open source community. And the other thing is, if you know very well about how your text editor works, and you also want to get hands ready on how the plugin for your editor works, you absolutely have a good chance of jumping into the code and you can start creating, which is a good thing from the perspective. But the flip side is, you have to have a minimal confidence that it can be your daily driver. Okay. Why I'm saying this is, it should not ruin your daily workflow. Otherwise, you will constantly face challenges to write code. That's definitely decreases the developer experience while working on it. Okay. So, whereas here, the other factor which I would like to differentiate is said before in the previous slide. If you don't find a feature in one particular IDE, you keep on, or you go ahead and find out an alternative. Okay. Whereas here the choices is kept open. Okay. Either a plugin or a feature might be available. If it is available, until now it is absolutely open source. If not, you can check for another editor. Okay. In many cases, the thing is that the magnitude of the features being delivered is like the language server provides a feature, but the editor is not caught up with that feature to translate that in the. Okay, so whereas some other editor might already have. Okay, so in this case, you may have to adapt to different editors. Okay, but the thing is, on the other hand, you always have the freedom to go ahead and look at the code, contribute whichever place that whichever features that is missing. You can just go ahead and submit a patch, and there are people to test them and approve it. Now I would like to show how I use the language server, Kotlin's language server with VS Code. I will change my screen now. So this is my VS Code, and I already have Kotlin extension enabled. Okay, so this is how the Kotlin extension looks like. If you want to install it, in this extension tab, you just search for Kotlin, and it lists the plugin, and this is the most actively used one, and that provides a list, and it provides almost features which comes close to any IDE. So say it has features like code completion, linting, debugging, code definition, finding references, and all. Okay, I've already installed this. Whereas you can also see that there are quite a lot of other options available too. But we are not going to get deeper into this. So if you already know about VS Code, this is just a pointer to let you know which one you can use. Now, yes. So now I have my the entire project being imported here, right? I just opened the folder here, and the project just looks as if it is opened on a text editor. Okay. So in the start, it does not index anything, and we can start using it right away. Now this is my entry point, like that. Now, if I can showcase how the developer experience would be. So as you can see that as I type, right, some of the completions are not so much. Now it has come. Some of the completions will take a bit of time, but it is absolutely possible. You get completions, and the completions do work. And if you want to use this find usages feature, I had configured a keyboard shortcut called Control-Shift-G. So it is finding out all the usages for this keyword. Okay, on the cursor. Right. and you can also jump into the definition with this. Now we are jumped into the definition of this object, right? And it also tells us if we made any, if there are any compiler errors, and that too on the fly. Say like, for example, it is like this. Also gives yeah. So if you see this, you know, it directly gives us the compiler errors, and we can hover on that, and you get the required information about how what the error really is, right? So here I am supposed to return a window function type. Let's say that if I return, let's say I'm deliberately making it, right. So I'm returning a string. So it is saying that the string type is not the info type is string, but it requires something else. So even in normal IDEs, you get this kind of compiler errors, and for the resource, and for the usage as concerned, usage as concerned, we already seen that. Now, what are the features that we can have a look? Okay. But there are some features like renaming doesn't work yet. But there are gaps. But I have been using this for some time, ever since I started started learning with Kotlin. It is fine. At least for a daily driver, with provided with these trade-offs. Say like if I want to rename it, I could not rename it. So this is one other feature that is missing. Whereas if you want to find out all the usages of this, yeah, it is absolutely possible. I have bind the stroke called F3 for this. So on if you have the cursor on the name of the interface or any other symbol, and press F3, and that gives me all the places where it's been referred to. This is a very atomic project, so it will be it is showing up, but I don't have a project big enough for which has many submodules and etc. If you also see that it is saying that this is a compiler warning, okay, and what I observed is I got the same kind of compiler warning even with IDs as well. Whereas I will tell now in some case in IDs, what happens is if this is a unoptimized code, or it may cause some lag, or it is let's say that in Kotlin, what happens is there are some experimental features that we would write in by picking up from blog entry or some Stack Overflow. In case if it is still in an experimental, if the feature is experimental, IDs tend to highlight that, whereas but it is always better to better to use the verify by compiling it. Okay. So this console is inbuilt with VS Code. I'm taking VS Code because VS Code is pretty much easy to set up with, and especially for Kotlin, it does not require any special configuration. So if you just download VS Code and install Kotlin plugin, you can directly import a Gradle or Kotlin project folder, and you can start using it. So now that it is also it is compiling, we can just run it as well, I guess. Yeah, it is running. Here, if we see that, so the code, if you see that what covers all these completions and the code refactorings whatever ID features we had seen, right? There is a Kotlin C daemon, and this daemon is what I mentioned as the Kotlin language server. Okay. And this Kotlin language server, which is running in the background, tries to push out the editor warnings and error messages through this. Actually, VS Code's plugin acts as a client, and the daemon acts as the server, so that whatever issues which the compiler are found, it pushes through the LSP protocol, and the VS Code plugin picks up that and presents it into our UI. So the good thing with this is we can, even if we can just swap into any other editor we want, right? But the way the project is being compiled and everything remains the same, because we are sticking with the basics. Even if we use Maven, the compilation, the other things remains the same. Whereas the editor has just need to be capable enough to import the project and and pick up the messages sent by the language server. Yeah.
So the plugin itself has the LSP integration, is what you're saying, right?
Yes, the plugin has the code to has the code to communicate with the LSP server. Okay, it is just a client.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So if I choose another editor, that needs to have a plugin, right?
Yes, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay. So apart from VS, any other editor which has a similar plugin for Kotlin?
Yeah, there are. For Vim is there. Sublime support is, I'm not so much sure. As many, at least to this office as possible. Emacs has, and what, Vim, Neo Vim. Yeah, most of the editors do have. Yeah, but if you just take a plain, I mean, if you just take editor, say like Nano or TextPad plus or any barebone text editors in Linux or Mac environment, we cannot just say that. Some of these new age text editors which has a feature of project built into it, right? They mostly qualify for being a LSP client.
Just another question, is the same relevant to Java plugin in VS Code from Red Hat, or
Yeah,
Are you not?
you have that. Actually, for in terms of Java, there is the plugin is being built by Red Hat, and Eclipse had provided the JDT server, which acts as a LSP server. The JDT is
Okay.
Java development tools,
Okay.
which was one of the core component inside the Eclipse IDE, and they made it as a as a presentation compiler server, so that editors can plug into it for to obtain the level of IDE features. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So is it advertised in the plugin itself that uses LSP, or you kind of out of the research you found it out? Just to
No,
segregate, if I find a new plugin tomorrow, I just wanted to see if it's it's advertised in the plugin itself or not. How do I find out whether a plugin is using LSP or not?
Okay, so for this presentation, okay, I will tell you the truth. Not truth, but my route to the VS Code, right? I'm more of a Emacs user. Okay, maybe I can also show that in Emacs. Just wait a second, so that I can answer your question better. So the underlying fact
Okay.
is, let's say that if you want to use Kotlin or any other language for that matter, okay, first you find whether there is a LSP server project being actively developed for that language. Okay, once you find that, the next step is to identify the appropriate text editor compatibility for the LSP server project. Now, when these two are there, you naturally found a match. Okay, at least this is the state. At least this is how I identified until now. Okay, once I found, I mean, when I, being an Emacs user, when I found that it is available for Kotlin, it was much easier in VS Code, by the way, because I never stated that I need to run a LSP server in the background explicitly. Whereas if you just see here, right, it doesn't say anything. It just says that it uses the Kotlin language server. Okay, and Kotlin language server is a separate binary that we have to download and maintain it. The good thing with VS Code is the VS Code plugin contains the language server within the plugin itself. Okay, so when the editor, when the editor finds out it belongs to a certain project, right, it spawns out a process for serving the IDE features for the particular project. Okay, now let's say this is a Gradle project, right? So it executes the language server. It spawns the language server for this project, and it keeps on running. And that's what you see it as. Kotlin C compiler daemon here, right? As I shown. Right. So this is with respect to VS Code, this is absolutely unobtrusive. Okay, and the other thing is more than this is with respect to Kotlin, more than Emacs, right? The Kotlin project, the LSP client project for Kotlin for VS Code is bit active than other editors, because of these features, right? It is easier to write VS Code plugins. So most language servers first try to ship the LSP compatibility, test and ship the LSP compatibility on VS Code than any other text editors.
So this is something that totally runs in my local machine, right? Doesn't do any calls, outside calls, network calls. Okay.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. However, if you want to do, you can do it, because, but that is unnecessary, I guess.
Yeah.
And
I'm just thinking something that, I mean, if my mission Like you said, the server is pretty lightweight. I hope so. Right? This Kotlin compile 11. Okay.
Meaning it is not. It is marginally lightweight. I could not say it is completely lightweight. Okay, if it is completely lightweight, then IDs would also taken the same approach. It is marginally lightweight because the main reason is the project indexing is very limited here. Okay. When I say project indexing, it means IDs has to restore the state of all your window layouts and everything, and it also needs to might have for a particular project, for a particular file, you might have introduced some debug points for testing, and they also need to index them, right? And your preferences for that matter. Say like you may use one particular color theme, and that preference differs from one IT to another, right? So IDs need to do a lot of other bookkeeping stuff like this, apart from serving your project. Whereas LSP doesn't need to do anything like that. And of course, your text editor preference is different, right? Your text editor preference is different because it sits in a different configuration and a different location, by the way. In terms of serving a project, right? See, if you LSP doesn't need any metadata actually. If you see here, this is my folder structure. Okay, leave this Gradle and build directories. Okay. If I open this project in IDEA, I have to have this much metadata to index the project. Whereas if I just open this in VS Code, this metadata is absolutely not needed. But what advantage we get over this is nothing. But I'm just pointing out the difference, right? So for LSP, it doesn't need a separate storage for metadata because it is completely decoupled with your editor.
Got it. So just another doubt. So opening VS Code will run this Kotlin compile daemon by default, even if it's not a Kotlin project?
No. Unless otherwise it has to find out. See, I would also, for the sake of this example, right? I'm going to kill, sorry, ADE of, I'm going to just kill. I've killed all the. Okay, fine. See, now I explicitly killed it, and it is again picking it up. Okay, right? Which means that it needs the once the editor opens up a file on a Gradle project, it brings up the necessary daemons to run on the behind the scenes. Okay. Whereas,
okay.
Hold on a second. I will try to bring up a project in another language. Okay. So,
okay.
To address your question. Okay. So now, okay, leave this for now. So this is for Rust. Even for Rust, I have installed the plugins. Okay. See, only that Gradle daemon is running, but not all the language server and everything. Which means that for the question you asked, the Kotlin language server does not always run in the background whenever you use VS Code. It only brings up the required process for the required project. It is very much specific to or tied to the project. Now this is a Rust project, and see, it is not bring up any Kotlin LSP daemon in the front.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? That's how it works. Okay, I think I would limit the scope of this demo here. I will change to another screen. I will go back to the presentation. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Prasanna.
Okay. So now that we had seen the demo, it is not a very exhaustive one where I can showcase all the features of LSP. On the other hand, for Kotlin, the LSP capabilities remains at a very fundamental level now. So we just saw the autocomplete work, and the refactoring doesn't work, whereas the find usages and the call hierarchy do work. Okay. So even if you see the official LSP server, Kotlin's LSP server page, it is still being actively worked on. So now, what are the caveats while choosing the LSP route? You are bombarded with the first thing, which I mean, this is from my personal experience. You are bombarded with a lot of choices. In some day, you may feel that VS Code is good, and when some other plugin in some other editor gets a new plugin update, you may get fascinated to it, and you get carried over. This is my personal experience. It doesn't. Others should also would face the same thing, but I have faced this a lot of times. And you may not find all the features available in IDE here. I have just given a glimpse of LSP. But when you let's say that you go ahead and we want to use it as a daily driver, some features may be missing, which I have not listed out. Okay, so it might be a deal breaker. Okay. And yeah, the third one being the lack of build tool integration. See, in these, what generally happens is in a main method, you can right click method and you can start running the entire application, or you can debug the entire application, which is not the case here. So the capabilities are still yet to improve. See, what I have done in the demo is I have toggled back between the editor and the console to manually trigger the Gradle build, right? Or anything which is the project build any build tool with the project depends upon. So this is in such a, and also the debugger support is there, but it's still at in infancy stage. So you can, because setting and revoking debug points may be a bread and butter thing of IDEs, but it is not the case with these modern text editors. So the text editors has to provide a support to set debug points and to revoke them, and to not only that, right? It also once you start a debugger daemon, it also needs to find out the appropriate the call path, and it has to let us go through each of the path, right? So such support is still in an infancy stage now. Okay. And code refactoring is actually a challenge. Because that again, this depends from one editor to the other. We cannot I would say that the editor is not the only thing to blame. the language also needs to provide an appropriate way to or rich APIs to refactor the code, especially for renaming and moving out the files from between packages. Say like it is very common for us to rename a package or move some classes from one package to another package. This is very much common in our in development, right? Because due to some PR or when you make some suggestions to PR or when your domain complexity changes, your package structure also changes according to it, which is a very normal thing to do in IDEs, but it can be a challenge in LSP driven development workflow. And so there is the parity between the language features, the language server features, and the editors has to catch up. So so what this really means is when a new language feature, when a new feature being introduced on the language server, then the appropriate plugs also needs to be established on the editor side as well, editor plugin as well. Okay. If you see Kotlin, for that matter, the editor plugin and the language server is created by the same person. So in most cases, when there is a new LSP feature landing on the server side, the appropriate changes is made on the VS Code side as well. But this space is not because it is not a very huge community. Okay, it is a very tiny community. So so people they actually officially support only VS Code now, but there are plugins for Emacs as well. So you have to follow the development closely so that the feature parity can be maintained consistently. So these are all the caveats which I found in my LSP in the LSP development flow. So now, why I am presenting this? Why should we? Though the support for LSP is in infancy stage, not many things are working. Some features may not even be close to IDEs, and Kotlin from day one it is being backed by IDEs, right? In fact, it is being made by IDE company. So why should I go why should I make a different choice of going completely in orthogonal direction and find out this? Because I believe that it might serve as a purpose to learn something and to contribute to open source project like this, and something which is what really excites me about LSP is that it decouples your ID, it decouples your editor with the compiler, right? In some languages, it is if you download the language SDK, the respective language server also gets downloaded, so that it provides a very unobtrusive experience, while integrating with editors. Okay. It is very good to see that Kotlin also in that league. So, but it just requires a bit more attention. So, through this session, what I'm saying is this is essentially a kind of a community elevator pitch, wherein we are learning the language. I hope there are more aspirants in this group to learn the language better, and we can use the learnings to improve the language server. Okay, thereby it brings up a tangible outcome for our learning. Okay. That's being the reason why I have been using LSP and why I am giving this talk. And this is the coordinates for our Kotlin's LSP community. They just started a Discord channel. Before that, they were in Twitter. So just 12 hours before they announced that are officially moving their Kotlin LSP channel, LSP discussions into Discord. So there you can find out the founder of, the creator of this project and other budding Kotlinists. And it is not like you have to only contribute via code to make this project moving. So you can even find out issues and you can report here. And you can also critic on critic or make changes to the roadmap there. But if you ask me whether it is a really active project, it is a bit slow going project. So I would say that being slow moving is actually good for new people to catch up, because you may find time at your own pace to find out what the project is really implementing. Okay, and once you get a confidence, and you start contributing, the project will definitely take its own pace, because we are not left alone. We are along with other Kotlinists. Okay, yeah, I think I'm done with